Hey everybody, it's Mike Frieder here with On-Call Compliance Solutions, and I'm back with another compliance tip of the week. Today we're talking about CMMC Control AC.L2-3.1.6. Use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. What is this control, and why is it important? So hey, if you're a defense contractor who's feeling overwhelmed, tired, and alone, trying to understand all of this DFARS, NIST SP 800-171, and CMMC compliance stuff, I've got great news for you. You found your home here at On-Call Compliance Solutions, where we can help you transform into your company's on-call compliance hero. Let's jump into it. So, CMMC Control AC.L2-3.1.6. Use non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. What is this control and why is it important? So in NIST SP 800-171 Control 3.1.6 or CMMC Control AC.L2, indicating it's a CMMC Level 2 Control 3.1.6, it focuses on restricting access to sensitive systems and information by ensuring that users utilize non-privileged accounts or roles when accessing non-security functions. The key points here are non-privileged accounts. These are user accounts that have limited permissions and do not grant access to administrative or higher level functions. And then non-security functions. These are tasks or functions that do not involve sensitive or critical operations, such as regular daily activities that do not require elevated privileges. The importance of CMMC Control AC.L2-3.1.6, it minimizes risk. So this is a big thing, right? You're going to see a lot of these controls that really focus on minimizing risk. Restricting the use of privileged accounts helps to minimize the risk of accidental or malicious misuse of powerful administrative capabilities. And privileged accounts typically have access to critical configurations and sensitive data, making them prime targets for attackers. Remember, your organization should have a very, very limited number of administrator users. That includes even local administrators on their individual machines, right? Like unless they're in a sandbox or perhaps like an engineering enclave or something like that, you just shouldn't really have most users having any kind of administrative privilege because it makes your attack surface wider, which, speaking of which, the next bullet point is it limits attack surface. If an attacker gains access to a non-privileged account, they have fewer opportunities to compromise critical systems, as the account lacks elevated permissions and, of course, access to things. This reduces the attack surface. Again, it's really critical, key piece of security. If there's less to attack or less they can do when they are successful in an attack, the more secure your system is. Next, reducing errors. Using non-privileged accounts for non-security tasks helps to prevent accidental misconfigurations or changes to sensitive systems, which could lead to security vulnerabilities or system downtime. Next, compliance and best practices. This control is aligned with cybersecurity best practices and helps organizations meet compliance requirements for protecting controlled unclassified information. Implementing this control is essential to maintaining a robust security posture and ensuring that access is tightly controlled based on user roles and the principle of least privilege. So, why would you have a separate user account and admin account for an IT admin? How does that make things more secure? I thought it'd be kind of good to comment on this a little bit. Having separate user and admin accounts for an IT administrator enhances security by reducing the risk of accidental or malicious changes to systems and limiting the potential damage if an account is compromised. Here's a breakdown of how this separation improves security. Number one, minimize exposure to attacks. Again, clearly, can't really attack very well if you don't have admin privileges. So reduce privilege exposure when an IT admin performs a day-to-day task using non-privileged user accounts, i.e. browsing the web, checking email, etc., answering service tickets. The risk of being exposed to malware, phishing, or other attack vectors is reduced. If their user account is compromised, the attacker does not immediately have administrative privileges over the system or network. Limits lateral movement as well. This is really important. Even if an attacker gains access to the user account, they won't be able to escalate privileges easily because the admin account is separate and presumably protected, i.e. with multi-factor authentication or even other measures like physical protection. So again, we know we need those things in place if we've got CUI within our system. So very, very critical. 2, reduces accidental misuse. Prevents mistakes. Admin accounts have the power to make critical changes to systems, i.e. changing configurations, installing software, or deleting important files. By limiting admin account usage to only necessary tasks, you reduce the likelihood that an administrator will accidentally perform a destructive action or misconfigure a system while performing routine non-administrative tasks. Again, it really can't be understated enough that there are users who, again, make mistakes, and that's okay, and sometimes those users are IT admins. So the more we can limit the potential for that mistake to have larger scale impact, the better. It also encourages careful behavior. Logging into an admin account only when performing specific administrative tasks promotes more deliberate actions. Again, there's kind of a red flag there that you're all of a sudden escalating, so you know you're doing something special. Admins are more likely to be cautious and intentional when using an account with elevated privileges. And the other side of this is if we invert it on its head, it's just more of a hassle to use the administrator account if you've got to sign into it every time. So that's kind of another element that I like to kind of talk about. Improves audit and accountability. Clear audit trails. Separating accounts ensures that there's a clear audit trail of when privileged accounts were taken and by whom. Guys, I can't tell you how many attacks we've stopped with an anomalous login report. All right, a report that shows when oddball administrators are logging in at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, and we go, "Hey, John, were you administrating the system here at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning?" And obviously, the answer is probably not. And so we go, let's go change some credentials and safeguard and check connections and find out where that connection is coming from. Again, that's a really, really cool report. We know how to run it. Again, it's part of our internal penetration test when we're working with clients, and it's something that I got to tell you, if you're not looking for those kinds of things, well, you should be. Your SIEM solutions should be set up, in fact, to alert on them. But ultimately, we want to improve that audit and accountability. Now, if a system or configuration change happens, it will be traceable back to the correct account, helping you identify who made changes and when. Compliance requirement. Many cybersecurity frameworks like NIST SP 800-171, ISO 27001, and regulations such as PCI DSS or HIPAA require strong access control measures and clear auditing. Using separate accounts for admin and non-admin tasks helps meet these compliance controls. 4, limit the attack surface. So again, we talked about this before in a previous video. Less privilege used day to day. Privileged accounts are prime targets for attackers because they provide access to sensitive configurations and systems. If the admin only uses their privileged account for specific tasks, this reduces the window of opportunity for an attacker to compromise those accounts, which is huge. Again, a great example is the IT admin who has his computer on all day just to check email. That computer's on and logged in, and if they happen to somehow get some kind of remote access to it, hey, you know what? That's a big window of time. If they're only doing admin work for 30 minutes of the day, it's a much smaller window. They would have to strategically kind of sneak in while you might be at the bathroom or whatever it may be, that they see the mouse stops moving. Believe me, these are very real sort of examples. Compartmentalization. Even if an attacker compromises the user account, they still have to breach additional security controls, i.e. elevation to administrator account, to access the admin account, which should be protected by stronger security measures like multi-factor authentication. Obviously, if you're accessing CUI over a network, even basic user accounts need MFA. Encourages the principle of least privilege, applies least privilege in practice. The principle of least privilege is one of the core tenets of cybersecurity. It means that users should have the minimum level of access necessary to perform their tasks. By requiring IT admins to use a standard user account for regular activities, you enforce this principle. The admin account should only be used for actions that specifically require elevated permissions. Reduces risk of privileged escalation. So if a user account is compromised, there's no direct escalation to privileged activities. The attacker would need to breach the additional layer of admin account, which ideally has stronger protection. Again, you're just making it that much harder if they are successful getting into one layer. That's what we call a layered security approach. 6, stronger security controls on admin accounts. Additional safeguards. Admin accounts are likely to have more stringent security policies applied to them, i.e. stricter password requirements, multi-factor authentication. By separating accounts, you can focus these stronger protections on the admin accounts without hindering the usability of the non-privileged accounts used for day-to-day work. An example scenario of the benefit is considering an IT admin using their admin account for all tasks. Again, they check emails while they're logged in as admin. They accidentally click on a phishing email, unknowingly executing malware. You could just be checking that email in a regular user account without email attached to it. Far less chance of you clicking on something bad while you're in as admin exposing the machine. So it really does actually make a lot of sense. Since they are using their admin account, the malware now has access to the system with administrative privileges and can compromise critical systems. Now, if the IT admin had just been using a non-privileged account, we probably would have been okay. It would have been much harder for that malware to really gain access. So it is a really, really big deal. They check the same email but are using a non-privileged account. Even if they accidentally click on the phishing link, the malware is limited to the permissions of a standard user account. The attacker is unable to immediately access critical systems or sensitive data, significantly reducing the damage. And by the way, slowing the path to a really good attacker, being able to escalate, right? Again, we have more breadcrumbs and more clues coming out of our SIEM system this way. It really is a big deal. It's a very core tenet to cybersecurity. So in conclusion, separating user and admin accounts reduces the likelihood of successful attacks, limits accidental damage, improves accountability, and enforces security best practices. This creates a layered defense where the compromise of one account doesn't immediately lead to a total system breach. Again, it buys you that time to figure out what's going on or see signs of an attack. So if you need help with this, or maybe you're not following best practices or compliance and you need some help and you really need someone to just kind of come in and figure this out for you and your company, I have great news, because at OnCall, we take defense contractors who've had this DFARS, NIST, CMMC, ITAR, and EAR information security compliance stuff dropped in their laps like a seagull on a sunny day. And we teach you how to level up and be a proper OnCall compliance hero for your company, eliminating gaps, gray areas, and getting this solved, all while showing you how to leverage compliance as your secret weapon to land more defense work with higher profit margins. Now that's what becoming an OnCall compliance hero can do for you. If you are looking for more help getting compliant, our compliance experts are always on call for you. Visit CMMCComplianceSecrets.com or check out the description below for links to get help right now. If you love the content we're putting out here for you, help us out with a big thumbs up on that like button. Smash it, baby. Smash that subscribe button to get the latest compliance content as soon as our compliance nerds roll it out. And until the next time, my friends, stay safe, stay secure, and hit us in the comments below to let us know what you'd like to know more about when it comes to information security and compliance. I'll see you on the next one.